Fight Live returns to Channel 5 this Friday. Two of Britain's most exciting super lightweights collide at London's legendary York Hall. Don't miss Eubank vs Farrell this Friday on Channel 5.
I'm going to share something with you. That might put me in a very negative light, yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife or something, completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from it, and this has been like a therapy session.
This is Joe Pugh for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast here at Camden.
You're on the IFL, boy.
I am now, I'm the new one.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
He does this, doesn't he, Coogan? Look, standing over you. Is this like...
Supervisor, the line manager.
You okay? Is your bum gone?
Nah, it's all right.
Good.
That's all right. Just feel like Frank Smith about 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Look, he's done all right.
He certainly has. Right, let's get to it then. Big fight week is start fight with Dillian Whyte versus Jermaine Franklin. The big comeback for Dillian. OVO, Wembley Arena. Talk to me about the fight.
It's a great fight. I mean, a lot of people just presume that it's a straightforward return for Dillian Whyte. Jermaine Franklin has a fantastic team of trainers. He's 21-0. He's got Dimitri Salita here to the right. He knows about how good this guy is. Jermaine Franklin is one shot away from catapulting himself into the big time. It's a very dangerous fight for Dillian Whyte. There's a lot of pressure on this fight. He's coming off a knockout defeat, and he wants to put himself right back in the mix for the world heavyweight title. So it's a tremendous card from top to bottom, but a very big fight in the career of Dillian Whyte on Saturday night.
Do you feel like a lot of people are writing off Dillian after the Tyson Fury defeat? He underwhelmed at Wembley.
I think he'd kick himself at that performance, but then again, Tyson Fury is an outstanding heavyweight. So I think more it's about the pressure of this fight. He's teamed up with Buddy McGirt, but he's expected to win this fight well, and Franklin's no mug. You know, if Franklin gets it right on the night, it's whether he can handle the occasion, you know, the big fight feels. It's going to be a very, very difficult fight for Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte's got a new trainer, all the pressure's on, and he's got to look good. I favour him in this fight, of course. But it's a very, very good heavyweight fight. Franklin's never been beaten, you know, and they're all here. They think they're one fight away, one punch away from landing an AJ fight. And if Jermaine Franklin wins on Saturday night, he's a massive front runner to fight Anthony Joshua next. So he could make a fortune. So he's here to win.
Do you think Dillian needed to change it up in camp? The whole team come under a lot of criticism, kind of coming out southpaw. He didn't really put it on Tyson Fury as he said he would. Do you think the freshen up, Buddy McGirt, experienced trainer out in the States, could do him well?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, sometimes you have to freshen things up. Dillian's a very loyal guy. He had a very good team before, but sometimes you need a different look when you talk about training team. And Buddy McGirt is a very, very experienced trainer. He's a great head on his shoulder. And this is like the last phase of Dillian Whyte's career. So he has to get this right now. And you team up with Buddy McGirt, really, you can't go wrong. You know, and he makes, again, the commitment of going to LA. You know, he's been out in Portugal for a long, long time. Now he's gone to LA. He takes himself away, he makes the sacrifices, he gives it everything. He looks great. And I think the team up with Buddy McGirt is going to put him in great stead for Saturday night.
We know you've always had Dillian on a fight-by-fight basis, and after the Fury fight there was a few rumours maybe team up with Sky and Boxer. How important was it for Matchroom and DAZN, more importantly, to get him on the platform?
Look, when you talk about names in British boxing, Dillian Whyte is right up there. He's top 3, top 4, and we've worked with him for a long time. We lost the purse bid for the Fury fight, but we wanted to make sure that he worked with us again. Everybody tried to sign him. We won the race, and we want to continue that, and we want to move forward now to get him a shot at the heavyweight world title again. I don't feel like he did himself justice with that shot, and this is a very important fight for his career. So we go back a long way. We have a lot of mutual respect. We've always done things right by each other, and looking forward to seeing him back under the Matchroom banner and making his DAZN debut on Saturday night.
We know DAZN signed the long-term contract with AJ. Is that kind of the plan now to make that massive domestic stadium fight?
Yeah, that's a must-make fight for 2023 and the first half of 2023, providing Dillian wins on Saturday. Like I said, Franklin wants to gate crash that party. So we've got to make sure that Dillian Whyte gets the win on Saturday. AJ is going to be watching this fight closely. He wants to fight Dillian Whyte again, and that's a natural stadium fight for 2023.
With Tank Garcia being made with Showtime, DAZN, so it looks like, does that put you under more pressure to deliver on your end with DAZN?
Oh, I mean, we've been delivering with Canelo Alvarez and loads of big fights. DAZN's in a great position at the moment, particularly in America. Great news that Gervonta Davis will be on DAZN with Showtime, and And obviously Floyd Mayweather was just on DAZN as well. So we're in a great position at the moment. Another big fight on Saturday night. Got Estrada Chocolatito next week. You've got Josh Warrington the week after. So we're in a great position. I think boxing's under pressure to keep making great fights. And we haven't seen Garcia Tank yet. They've still got to have a fight first. But hopefully that gets made or happens for April. And we're all under pressure to make good fights. We don't want to see people rely on YouTube fights. I know it's got their own market and everything, but we want to make great boxing fights, and that is a great fight, and well done to everyone that made it.
How much are you going to push Maxi Hughes for the interim fight between the Tank fight?
Yeah, I've already done it. I mean, I've been pushing Maxi Hughes so hard with Golden Boy and Ryan Garcia, but at the same time, they're going to want to take the right fight to prepare him for Gervonta Davis. Hopefully, they feel that Ryan Garcia Maxi ticks those boxes, and we've already put a call in, and we'll see who they choose.
Do you think we could hear a decision from that by the end of the year?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're talking about fighting in January, aren't they? I think sort of mid-end of January for Ryan Garcia. So we'll see who he chooses.
All right, coming back to the card then, big card, obviously fantastic British heavyweight title fight between Nathan Gorman and Fabio Wardley. For you, how important is it to get these British title fights and the big domestic dust-ups on these cards?
So important. I mean, this is such a good card on Saturday night. For me, I said to our matchmaker, Tom Dallas, like Wardley against Gorman is exactly the kind of fights we should be making. A lot of the times you see us bring over a foreign name, which is good, but when you can make a big domestic British fight, everything changes. And at the same time, you see that change with Wardley Gorman. 50-50 fight, British heavyweight title fight, which is one of the most important belts domestically in boxing. Great fight. And I want to sit down excited to watch a fight. And that's the kind of fight that I sit down very excited to watch.
I think one that's going under the radar is Richards Bolotniks. It's kind of, we know Bolotniks always comes, and for a comeback fight after the Buatsi fight, it's going to chuck him right in there after a win, isn't it, Richards?
It's going under the radar a little bit because there's so many big fights on the card. Richards Bolotniks could headline on its own. Brilliant fight. You see Craig, his defeat to Dimitri Bivol looks better and better, doesn't it, every fight now. But the Buatsi fight was a great fight, and Bolotniks had a great fight with Buatsi. He don't stop coming forward. Craig's going to have to really bite down on the gum shield there. He can put a good performance in there, get back on world level quickly. It's a very ballsy fight to take from Craig Richards, but I expect another thrilling fight there.
What is going on with Joshua Buatsi? We haven't seen him in the ring since the Richards fight. Surely we've got to get him out as early as possible next year?
We want to. I mean, he kind of treading water a little bit after turning down the Bivol fight. Obviously then the mandatory got called. But there is a chance that Bivol fight could be next. I feel like it's going to be really interesting to see what Bivol does next, with Canelo Alvarez potentially having a smaller fight in May and looking to fight Bivol in September. Then you've got the undisputed fight. Bertabiev's going to fight Yard. Then he'll probably have time off for Ramadan, and when will he be ready to fight? So we've all got to sort our stuff out there and see what's next.
You was fairly critical of Anthony Yard for waiting for that Beterbiev fight. It's important that the same thing don't happen.
I've seen the famous clip that always goes out. That clip was back in March or April, and ultimately it's going to be a year of waiting. I just felt like Buatsi and Yard could have happened now or in the summer, and then he could have fought for Yard. So it's not that when's that fight going to take place. It took a year, over a year for that type of fight, but I'm glad he's got the opportunity. It's a good fight. And listen, I hope Anthony Yard wins the fight, but you've got Buatsi, you've got Callum Smith, everyone's treading water waiting for that big world title fight, and it's very difficult just with two champions.
In certainly the UK side of things, it's a packed end of the year. 4 televised fight nights over 3 days this weekend. What sort of crowd are we expecting in Wembley on Saturday night? We
have about 6,000 in there, something like that. It's very difficult at the moment. Next week you've got Chisora Fury, which is obviously a big fight, and they're struggling bad on tickets. Obviously you've got Parker Ryder, I don't know, that's done at the O2. You've got Friday night boxing on Channel 5. You've got Sunday night Alexandra Palace. It's very difficult at the moment, and your next question is probably going to be about the pay-per-view price. The answer is times are hard at the moment. You've got to give more value than ever to the customer. If you're asking them to put their hand in their pocket for tickets, for pay-per-view, for merchandise, for equipment, whatever it is, and it's very difficult times at the moment. And I feel like we've got the best show of the weekend by far, and I think most people would agree with that. But you've got to deliver value. It's very difficult when there's 4 shows all in the same city. and another one next week where they're probably going to do 30,000 at Tottenham. You know, so it's a lot of tickets in the market.
Only 30,000 in Tottenham. We holds a lot more than that.
Yeah, no, but I don't think I don't know whether they're going to open a top tier. I don't know. I mean, it's very difficult, especially in December when it's freezing. You know, 30,000, 40,000, whatever it is, it's still a very good crowd. You know, but it's difficult. You know, you've got to create a compelling event, and you can't do it every week. Not every fight is a gangbuster. You know.
What do you think of that pay-per-view price point then? Do you think it's fair?
I get it, because look, Tyson Fury wants X, right? You've got to find a way to get there, to get him to fight. And I know Tyson Fury kindly wanted to fight Anthony Joshua for free, apparently, but it's $26.95 for the Chisora fight. But you've got to find a way to get the money together, and that's the price point they needed to try and hit their numbers.
So, kind of Tyson's come out in the past day or so with this new interview come out on the Queensberry Boxing Channel, and you've been so vocal about Anthony Joshua about wanting activity in the heavyweight, certainly that top tier heavyweight division. Do you think the price tags being put on these names is stopping activity, 3-4 fights a year?
Yeah, I think also the size of the events and the commercial work that AJ, for me, AJ should be fighting 3 times a year every year, but because of his commercial responsibilities, because of the size of the events, sometimes it end up being 2. And then with COVID, sometimes it was 1. So we must make sure that 2023 sees him box 3 times. Really important. And, you know, activity is key.
Is it difficult, though, for certainly Anthony Joshua? He's always fought in a stadium in the UK, certainly since, I think, 2018 now. So it's kind of taking a back step to an arena. You're losing out on money?
Really? Depends what the ticket prices are. But, you know, if AJ's in a big fight, every fight will be in a stadium. But, you know, the return might be at the O2. It was a fantastic venue for him, and it would be a huge fight that would sell out instantly. So, like I said, it all depends on who he fights, but you're going to see many stadium fights for AJ in 2023 and beyond.
Just picking up on that interview with Tyson Fury that got released yesterday. I know it was filmed a few weeks ago, but he called AJ a coward. He said that is not the glamour fight in the division, and kind of, he don't want that fight, he's saying now.
And then, 2 or 3 days ago, he said he couldn't retire unless he fought AJ, and he needs that fight badly. You're seeing now from the social media responses, people are starting to come into terms with, doesn't really make sense what he's saying. Let him go on. Maybe he fights AJ instead of Usyk. I wouldn't even be surprised. Like, there's a kind of fight, that fight's so big with AJ that sometimes you just get together and you make the fight instantly, you know?
He said that Usyk fight isn't his legacy fight. He said that Wilder was his legacy fight. So if legacy isn't involved, then maybe that AJ fight could come before Usyk?
I think Fury wants legacy, and he knows that the AJ fight is legacy because it's the biggest fight of all time. And despite him maybe saying that he doesn't rate Anthony Joshua, he does, and he knows it's a real fight. And we have to see that fight, but you've also got the Usyk fight, got Chisora coming up, but we'll see what happens.
I know Kugan went into a lot of detail on Friday about the whole influencer stuff in Dubai, but then over the weekend we saw it kind of got a bit more crazier in Texas. It went up a notch. What did you make of that kind of street brawls, slapping in the faces, ejection from arenas?
Well, you know, I think something bad's going to happen. It's not going to be a great look. I mean, if we're talking about influencer boxing and the YouTube generation, a lot of that is the younger generation. And I don't think that, listen, argy-bargy at a press conference is always good to sell a fight. But street fights filmed around a press conference, for me, it's not good because I know that young kids are watching that. And they know these guys. And I don't think it's a good look. But it's wild, you know, and I'm sure KSI, Dylan Dennis will do good numbers, you know.
How important is it for you then, because you've been in the middle of throne tables with Dillian Whyte, Derek Chisora, how important is it to tread that line very carefully?
You can't say, Eddie wouldn't love that, because I love beef. It sells. But there's a line. I don't want to see people scrapping on the streets, especially kids that people who are followed by kids and almost looked up to. Like what you saw there, you don't see in boxing, really, because boxing's different. Boxing's about respect and manners and all the things we try and instill at the grassroots level. Don't mean we can't get two guys coming together. Don't mean I can't do a face-off with him saying I'm going to do this and do that. But you don't fight on the streets. That's what we're trying to avoid. Yeah, we're trying to take it to the ring, take it into the gyms, build discipline and respect. And those guys have an obligation to the next generation. They might be more important to guiding the next generation than fighters. And again, people will watch this and say, oh, Eddie's just because he's not doing YouTube. No, I'm just telling you right now, I don't want my kids watching those kids who they're supposed to look up to and follow on TikTok and Instagram, scrapping on the street, when my kids are at the amateur boxing club and I'm telling them, and the coaches are telling them, violence out on the streets, or that doesn't exist. This is where you do your work. This is where you learn. This is a game built off discipline and respect and manners, and this is where the fight takes place, you know? So hopefully, you just get a bit crazy.
I think the sport runs the risk then of that transpiring to the ABCs. I know there's been some fights break out on the amateur scene recently. It's always going to happen in the sport, just like crowd violence.
Sport, again, I go back to the sport. The greatest thing about the sport and grassroots is you take your aggression out in the gym, right? It's a sport, it's a family, right? You don't fight on the streets. You don't carry weapons. It goes against everything that the club tells you, you know, and grassroots tell you. But these people haven't been through grassroots. And every now and again you might see a brawl at a press conference, but how often, really, in a professional press conference? Very, very rarely. And every now and again you see it, and we understand it because there's a lot of testosterone. But then you saw Dubai, and there you saw 4 or 5 fights on the streets, guys wrestling, fighting over cars and stuff like that. I know it sells and everything, but it's just not for me. And again, people might say, oh, just because you're not... No, I'm telling you, I don't need to do it. I'm all right, okay? Got a decent business, got enough money. I do it because I love it. And I'm at these amateur clubs. I was at a show on Saturday. My daughter was there. And it's too early to say it's changed her life, but it's had such a positive effect on her life, being in that community, you know? And you don't learn to fight on the streets in a boxing club. But these guys haven't been through the system. They haven't been to local amateur boxing clubs, you know?
Last one on the influencer subject then. Global Titans have come out today and said they've made an offer to Tommy Fury and Jake Paul. Where do you stand on that fight? Because it kind of borders the influence.
Listen, I don't... You see the clips of those YouTubers swinging and...
John Fury.
Yeah, but look, Jake Paul, I don't call Jake Paul really a YouTube boxer. I think he's earned his crust. Like any pro fighter, he's put the time in, he's decent enough, he's fighting okay opposition, no boxing, etc. And Tommy Fury has been a boxer. I don't see those two as YouTube boxing. I don't really know about Global Titans, and I don't know, I think Tommy Fury's with Frank Warren, it's all a bit confusing. But of course, Jake Paul's not going to do a fight with Global Titans because he's going to want to do his own thing, so who knows. But I don't mind Jake Paul, I don't see that as, it's the YouTube stuff that we see. Even Hasim Rahman against that other guy, I watched that, I thought it was good, quite entertaining, and it was like a proper fight. But some of the other stuff is so bad, but it's a different audience, and I don't think it should be stopped, by the way. I just think we just got to make sure that it's just...
Section it off.
Calm down, guys, calm down. You know what I mean? Because what they're doing, you know, like tipping the hat off and throwing a drink over someone, if they'd done that around real fighters, fuck me, they're going to have a big problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what do you think of John Fury then?
John Fury takes his shirt off and says, hold me back. John Fury should have gone through the rope at Jake Paul. We don't want to take your shirt off and say, oh, hold me back. I want to see John Fury go over the rope. You know?
Do you think that's a stadium fight then, Tommy Fury, Jake Paul, in the UK?
No, it's a big arena fight, you know, I mean. And it's a 50-50 fight. I hope it gets made. But I don't call that YouTube boxing.
Last couple then. This weekend, Zach Parker versus John Ryder. John Ryder goes over to the Queensbury stable. It's kind of the first fight that you've worked together on that's got over the line. First of all, just a comment on that relationship with yourself, George, Frank, and do you think John's going to go and do the business?
Yeah, I think it's a 50-50 fight. I think Zach Parker's a very good fighter. John's boxed at a higher level than Zach Parker, but it's a 50-50 fight, you know. I believe he can do the business. We're behind him 100%, and you know, I think he'll be victorious on Saturday.
Canelo's come out over the past week and said the operation went well and he's ready to fight in May. Is that a potential option for Canelo, the John Ryder fight? We'll be pushing that.
You know, he talks about maybe fighting Bivol in September instead. We'll have to see. I spoke to Eddie Reynoso a couple of days ago. We're going to speak this week, try and plan out a schedule. But John Ryder will put himself in a great position if he won on Saturday.
How confident are you that you can maintain a working relationship with Canelo going forward?
Yeah, I think, you know, how many fights we've done with him now? 6 or 7. You know, we've got a great relationship. He's always going to take the option that appeals to him most, and hopefully that's with Matchroom.
Last one, Kalle Sauerland done an interview yesterday with Boxing Social saying that he still believes the Eubank Jr. Ben fight will happen. He actually says it's bigger than ever with everything that's transpired.
Yeah, it is. But we need a resolution, and that started now with the WBC. Hopefully we can find an opportunity to resolve that and then move forward. But yes, Eubank Ben will happen, will be bigger than it's ever been, but it won't happen until his case has been heard.
So even after a ban, are you still confident that that will go ahead?
If he receives a ban, which he may not, once you see all the information, then once the ban's served, we don't know if it's 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever, he's free to fight. But, you know, hopefully there's no ban and we can move forward with his career ASAP.
I think Kalle and Chris said that he's not going to boil down to that weight again, the 157. Is that going to have to be renegotiated?
We'll see. There's a long way to go. Let's let him have the hearing first.
Excellent, Eddie. Thank you very much for speaking to IFL TV. Speak to you again in the week.
Thank you, mate.
Fight Live returns to Channel 5 this Friday. 2 of Britain's most exciting super lightweights collide at London's legendary York Hall. Don't miss Eubank versus Farrell this Friday on Channel 5.
I'm going to share something with you. That might put me in a very negative light, yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife or something, completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from it, and this has been like a therapy session.